Good morning, good time zone everyone, and warm greetings to wherever you are in the world. This is Amelia, aka Puffin, and we're here to study TGCF Season 2, Episode 10. Hopefully, we'll keep the episode a little drier than last time around. Arya just sent me a gif of a tissue box. Honestly, I think I'll be fine. I have already been crying about this episode for the entire week. I recorded episode 10 on Monday, and yeah, I have to watch the episode again at least 2 times while trimming and editing, and safe to say I did kind of, maybe, sort of, cry a little bit while doing that as well. Like, surely it's enough. It was a very emotional episode for a couple of reasons. Yes, there was a little bit of that, like my first time crying in this episode was for the shock of realizing just some of the pain that Shirley has been through, and especially the fact that he has actually, as implied, seen his parents dead either by being strung up by a presumably angry mob or by taking their own lives. So yeah, those tears were from just that sudden realization, I suppose. And the second time was just, I know from the comments and from just interacting with a lot of you that a lot of the stuff I see in the donghua has only been like talked about or explained in a novel. It's not actually a flashback scene in the novel. But I have to say, I think they've done a really, really good job of visually conveying this. And the scene between Shirlian and the King of Yong'an, I thought was really good for several reasons. Like for the plot, it does set up what kind of people the Yong'an royal family were, and we get a little glimpse into the king's own self-awareness of his own failures and his faults. Through the conversation, we're also able to center Long Chen-cho's role in the story as kind of the beacon of hope that he is, with the way his ethos, his beliefs have been built around the fact that he doesn't see Chandler people as something bad. It doesn't instill in him the same fears that his father is feeling, that his father is aware that he is feeling, even though he knows that he shouldn't be feeling these things, like he doesn't want it, but he knows that he is colored by his own prejudice. But again, the reason why I think the scene is so good is because we see Shirlian, who's ironically talking to and sort of kind of giving advice to the current leader of what was once his people 500 years ago. And he is showing this expression of hope. Like I said in the last episode, like I really think that in that moment, Shirlian had this feeling that, yes, after all that suffering, there could actually be a sort of peace. And this is the generation that all that suffering ends with. Alas. And that makes the whole scene of Shirlian deciding to go to the banquet, going into the banquet and realizing that there is a massacre going on, even more painful. And then when the king gives the order to kill the Chandler people. So the conversation between the king and Shirlian sets up the emotional weight on Shirlian's side, and I get emotional just thinking about it. Like, it's such a terrible way of crushing that hope. Like, I can only imagine that Shirlian, having seen his entire kingdom fall, must have wandered around for these hundreds of years, kind of feeling very hopeless, you know? And then we also know that the Chandler people have not been treated very well throughout the centuries in Yong'an. They have been treated as second-rank citizens. And it's only really lately with this king that things are starting to get a lot better for the common Chandler people. Better to the point of equality. In spite of all the history and all the bad blood. Anyway, and the third time I almost cried during this episode was at the end, at a very emotional scene where Shirlian he's at such a low point, and he is having this outburst of these feelings and thoughts in front of San Lang, in front of Hua Chong, who is listening, and who maybe is having a little bit of a, well, this is not really what I wanted, but at the same time, he went into this with his own convictions. Again, I think his goal really is, Gege, don't hurt yourself. I don't really want to dig into it before watching the episode. I'll probably talk a little bit more about what I think about this whole situation with Long Chen-cho, Shelian, Hua Chong, and of course Chi Rong, and the potential outcome of all of this. I guess I just want to say that I was thoroughly entertained by the episode, even though I was not seeing the screen for most of the time. That's a joke, I was perfectly fine, guys. My eyes are always wide open. So yeah, for this study session, my only goal really is to not cry. Let's see how that goes. And listen to the Mandarin voices as per usual, try to grasp any differences or any key pieces of information that maybe wasn't included in the dub for whatever reason. Thank you again to the lovely Aria for checking the subtitles for me. Excited to get into this so that we can continue on to episode 11 this week. And with that, I have nothing else to say. Get your notebooks and your pencils ready and let's roll.
抓紧了，宾客差不多要到了。
Alright.
我怎么可能缺席嘛？
那可不，全都到了。
他不是。
He must be such a good actor.
怎么这个仙乐贼子还赖着不走？
要不是国主和皇后垂怜，这东西还不知在哪儿自生自灭。
在说什么小话呢？不如让我也听听。
姨母，没说什么，我先进去坐了。
让说都不敢说了，这一听就是。
Gotta say, Auntie is a boss.
安乐，这一次留金宴，辛苦你了。
不辛苦，都是分内之事。
It's legit. When he says doing his duty, he probably means his duty to, well, Qirong's plan. Again, I've heard now that there are certain differences to the setup, that as we see it in the Donghua and as it is presented in the novel. But I don't think that the aggressors from the Shanda remnants, if any of them are involved, I mean, Anda is, I don't think that their aggression is solely their own. Like, yes, there would perhaps be a sort of fringe group who are a little bit more mad about the situation and take some pride in their history as the once ruling people of this nation. But I think that in order to do something as violent as this, you need radicalization. And I think Qirong is the one who's brought that. Qirong has direct reason to want to annihilate the Yongan royal family, because he is literally the Shanda royal family that was wiped out by the Yongan uprising. Like, I don't know how he died. I know there's like the plague and everything as well, but point being, he has direct resentment towards Yongan for what happened to him and to Shanda. And I think it's a little bit like Shelian said, like, yeah, he is a resentful spirit, but it's taking him 800 years and still a wrath. So yeah, I think it's taken Qirong a while to become powerful enough to do this sort of thing, to extract his revenge. This is Qirong extracting his revenge. And maybe Qirong too is convinced that he is doing it for the people of Shanda, for the resentful feelings of the Shanda people who died or lost everything because of this war. Anle, as we see in this setup, did suffer some indignity at court, in that a lot of the younger nobles still uphold themselves as righteous and better. And I expect them to. I expect that the court would be the last place to change, because, as I've sort of mentioned in some of the comments, Yong'an's story of creation, their origin story, is that they defeated the tyrannous and terrible nation of Shanda and replaced them. So if this is the story you're telling about your creation, then yes, you need to have that bad guy, you need to have that scapegoat, and it's not going to be easy to turn the sentiment against them. Except maybe that has slowly been happening in the public, and now in the royal family, the king and queen of Yong'an have managed to do that with their son. So change is coming. But the reason this happened is because of, well, likely because of the radicalization of Andla and any collaborators.
这孩子哪有自己生辰送他人礼的？
I still think this
往
is
年
so
不都如
sweet.
此吗？千秋这么孝顺，也是国师教导有方了。
He's so filial thanks to the guidance of the preceptor.
毕竟是殿下的生辰宴。
那也不能让
I'm not gonna cry about that. I'm not. But it's still such a good like little moment for me. Like yes, he's good to his parents because it's just nice thinking that that's one of the teachings that Shelian was able to instill in him. It's really nice. It's really sweet.
还缺一个，再忍忍。
叶风凉，看看你脸色都青了，一会儿喝杯酒暖暖身子吧。
Wait, what was that? Okay, I don't know who she was talking to. She might have been talking to the king, but she could also have been talking to Anla, as she did in the dub. But yeah, it's your face is turning blue. It's cold. Like it could be. Could that be like a hint to something to do with the ghosts that I think that Chirong has provided here? Like I think these soldiers are ghosts. I think that the bag he came with was their resentful spirits or whatever. So could it be that he's kind of been affected by just, you know, being around them? And that is like our little hint. It's just adding to the ambience. It doesn't really have anything to do with the plot. I think it's just adding to the ambience of, oh shit, things are going down.
殿下，太子殿下，
国师，
God, he's so cute. Yes, I'm talking about Shelian. I'm always talking about Shelian. I can't stop looking at him.
国师回来了。
Ah, the scene.
千秋又劳烦国师了。对了，听说流金宴，国师不出席，是为何呀？
His little breath.
只是这流金宴，
臣明白。陛下是想借皇室家宴，兴盛经济作坊吧？
国师是怎么？
Ah, okay.
今日陪同太子殿下出游，殿下也是第一次接触这么多仙乐遗民。
I think this is kind of interesting. In episode 5, when we're introduced to the concept of the gilded banquets, it's Chu Lingwen telling us that it was a Shanle tradition and that it was, you know, very opulent and whatever, and that the Yongen royal family adapted this tradition after a while. And like, I think that that is kind of like an image of how governments and, you know, revolutions kind of go in a cycle. Like you have this group of the young and uprising who are like, fuck Shanle and everything they've done. We're not going to be anything like them. And then as time passes and they become the ruling class, the wheel turns and turns and turns. And before you know it, they're also doing the exact same things that the previous dynasty or kingdom did. So that was kind of the impression I had of that. But while that is still true, I think, the intent of it from His Majesty the King here is, as Shilian says, to bolster the goldsmiths of Shanle. I don't know if this detail is in the book as well, but in the Donghua, it is one of the things that he is doing in order to make sure that the Shanle remnants are more integrated in the workforce. They are now providing a crucial service to the nobles and the royal family by making all these ornaments and by making all these, you know, cups and whatever they eat out of, all the gilded stuff. And at the same time, that is a Shanle tradition. That is Shanle culture getting integrated in the current Yongen kingdom. That is what happens when we are integrating, when we are melting together culture and becoming new, more. Yes, there's always going to be a sort of conservative view when you're talking about culture. You want to conserve something, you want it to last and to teach it to the next generations. But in real life, that is not how culture works. Culture is people, is something that is ever changing, and even within like old pieces of culture that we're now trying to preserve, there's always been change. So in a sense, you could argue that what is happening now is that in the current Yongen kingdom, the old Shanle traditions are also being merged with them. And what you're creating is, yes, it's still called Yongan, but this Yongan is different from the Yongan of 400 years ago, 300 years ago, 200 years ago, even 100 years ago. Like, it's changing. And again, I think it's a good policy by the king in order to help integrate the Chandler remnants into the workforce of the country. Yeah, sorry for that little tangent. I hope none of it comes across as, what's the word I'm looking for? Too much, anyhow. It is not my intent to say that any VO culture is necessarily a wrong one. I just find stuff like this really interesting, especially as I live in and I am from an area where cultural identity, minorities and majority is very, very prominent in just everyday life and also in our current political climate. So I find this really interesting.
游安仙乐两族之间，也不再如当初那般仇视。正是因为陛下先做到了这份赤诚相待，百姓才会效仿改变。
5年里，我虽能顶住朝臣、皇戚的压力，可这儿，哪怕父辈的言论我从未赞同，却依旧会因仙乐二字就心神不宁。
Okay, this is super interesting as well, because they're giving us details in the subs here that kind of cements some events. It seems like this is the generation that has started this change to begin with. And it also seems that over the last 5 years, there's been more conscious effort of it. And it's also been 5 years since Shirley-Ann joined the court here as the imperial preceptor. So while the king says that he's always wanted to change, it's only really recently that he has been putting in all the stops, right? Like, again, I think there's definitely been a slow overturning here, but the story they're painting now is that, well, it's recently that the king and the royal family have tried very hard to show that Chandler not bad. I don't know, I don't think it's that simple, but also it's just for context, I suppose. I like my headcanon better.
我也只是一介凡人罢了，
陛下。
但是千秋可以不同，在千秋心中，仙乐人从来不是祖祖辈辈最终凶残的暴君贼子。老了，再多我也改变不了。
陛下能这么想，就已经是迈出了最难的那一步了。
I said I wouldn't cry. Oh my lord.
国师，千秋的生辰家宴，我希望你能来。
I said I wouldn't cry. I'm okay. Yeah, that scene is still it's still so good. It still made me tear up just watching it. It's so good. Just having the thoughts is the most difficult step. What was that? Something like that? I have to see that quote again, but that's a good line.
陛下能这么想，就已经是迈出了最难的那一步了。
Gosh, he's so precious. Just the symbolism of that scene as well is just it's so good. Like the king of Yong'an inviting the crown prince of Chandler to the banquet for Long Chencho's birthday. Oh, I hate everything. Okay, let's be studious. Let's work this out. Oh, the little flare, the little flip of his cloak. Yeah, here we go again.
怎么样，拿到了吗？那，
令堂的发簪就交给我吧，明天午后来取。
那就先谢过了。我好久没有添新的事物了，希望这个他会喜欢。
一定会喜欢的。估计流金殿上，大家都在等着殿下了。快走吧。
快！
Well, King Scott moves. There is a lot of good visual storytelling in this. Just the pacing and the little flashes to both Shirley-Ann and Long Chencho moving towards the banquet. Oh, his face. Just his vision blurring like that. Could also be an effect of like us seeing what Shirley-Ann sees through his mask as well.
陛下，
Yeah, so they were running away. He gave up on chasing them in order to help the king. And I'm guessing after he leaves the hall with Lang Tenshou there, he tracked down Anla. He was doing whatever, I don't know, maybe he'd want to escape after this. He has been caught by the Imperial Preceptor. And I don't know what he'd do to the other ghosts. Did he track them down and kill them? I can't survive this. He already was of the opinion that he was gonna die. Oh gosh. So Qirong was around, right? He must have been around to hear that in order to repeat it, or that's what the Donghua is implying here. Wouldn't surprise me if he was just, you know, sulking around trying to listen in, I guess, see that everything was going according to plan. Like, he's provided all the weapons, so to speak, but he doesn't seem like he was very intent on getting his own hands dirty. Yeah, I guess I could add that to my list of things I noticed about Qirong. So far, he's not really one to get his hands dirty. He likes having people do things for him. I haven't seen him personally go for it. His powers must be in his ability to convince others to do the dirty work for him.
你的好师傅一想，这哪能留啊？自然是补一剑，给他个透心凉了。哼，圣人表哥就爱干这些损人不利己的害人勾当，结果呢，两面不讨好，哪边都没落着。闭嘴！为什么要让他闭嘴？
Pissing off both sides and ending up with nothing.
亲族，一个不当我父皇，你们全都在骗我。
One killed all my family and one finished off my father, and you've both been lying to me. Yeah, it's a bit like at this point in the conversation, like honestly, way earlier in this conversation, it was time to come clean. And while I understand that Shilian's own mentality and his own damage is what is preventing him from doing that, it's so frustrating knowing that it's gonna take so much time to heal from this for Lang Tenshou and for Shilian both.
要不是横插一杠，你12岁就该被仙乐人取了狗命，哪还能活到飞升啊？
If not for my intervention, you would have been dead at the hands of the Shanle
挟持我
people
的也是。废话，
when you were 12.
朋友是假的，兄长也是假的，仙乐人根本不在乎我们的事。
Yeah, he's just nodding around, being like, yeah, this is what I wanted, because that is exactly what he wanted. It's more implied in the dub that Qirong was behind his kidnapping at 12. The subs didn't really give me that, I feel. But yeah, this is where we're going down the wrong path. The last thing that Shilian wanted to protect was Lang Tenshou's belief in that he had done the right thing, that these relationships he had were real. And I think it's going to take some time for Lang Tenshou to settle into that fact. Gosh, he's been such an interesting character throughout this season as well. I love Lang Tenshou and just his entire development. And also his voice actors have been amazing in both the English and the Mandarin version here. Gosh, I actually think I slightly prefer his English voice actor's performance. There's some lines that are just so stuck in my head. Again, that might be biased because I understand the language better. But he did such a good job. One of my favorite performances in this show, aside from Howard Wang. Oh my lord. He's made me cry so many times.
什么永安仙乐本属同源，什么只要我们这一代能化解冤仇，两族就能。
Like, Lang Tenshou, wake up, that is exactly what happened. You made it happen. And that's what Shilian is gonna tell him next, I guess. But that is what happened.
你好好想想，在你手里，不是真的有所改变了吗？仙乐遗民愿意放下仇恨，在永安扎根，后世两族的纷争也越来越少。你是真的都做到了呀？
可是我的父皇母后呢？有我和仙乐如何，原本是他们最大的心愿。父皇母后的心愿实现了，可他们的下场又是什么呢？
怎么一个个都爱哭哭啼啼
？Shut up, Chirong. It's yeah. That's at least when it's a nice scene where you finally see like Shirley actually telling him, you know, the truth. But it's a little too late in a sense. Like you've already kind of ruined your integrity a little bit by being caught lying between you and Chirong. So the words, while good, they don't quite hit the mark. Like, yes, I think it's good that you are kind of showing him that what you did wasn't wrong. You did manage to do these things, and that wasn't a lie. But then he is still grieving, you know? He is still grieving the fact that his parents had to die. Yes, they really didn't have to. They really didn't have to. And that is why we now have him go on his little vengeance trip. That's what's happening with Lang Chen-cho now. And I hope that he gets to put these things to rest when he works through it. But also, I think that it wasn't a very smart idea to nuke Chirong's avatar at this point.
娘，我还没找你祖宗要呢，还封什么安乐王？安在前，乐在后，不就是你们永安狗想踩在仙乐人头上一辈子？
这种
That was with crowning Anle as the king of happiness. I wonder if this has something to do with his name. An in the front, Le in the back, because of Yong-an, Shan Le. Arya, you mentioned this to me in the voice chat the other day. It must have something to do with the name meaning. But yes, his name is literally Yong-an first, Shan Le second, and that is another thing that makes Chirong agitated. And it's a little bit like Chirong says he hasn't gone asking for his parents. Yeah. Chirong probably did lose his parents as well, didn't he? Another reason for his resentment towards Yong-an.
少说两句吧。
刘青燕杀我亲祖，是你在背后指使的。
没错，我安乐，你师傅，咱们三个仙乐人都有份。
Okay, that's a difference. That's a difference that is kind of important actually. In the dub, he is like, yes, me, Anle, your master, all of Shanle's people had a role to play. But maybe I misheard that in the dub, because what he's saying here is that me, Anle, your master, we're all Shanle people and we all had a role to play. So maybe he is and has been excluding the rest of the Shanle people in this sentence. He's just referring to how the three of them, key players in the massacre, we're all Shanle.
不痛，一点都不痛。
Crazy little bitch.
你往常就是用这口锅吃人的吗？
是了，你想怎么吃？
Cute.
你的好徒儿翅膀硬了，会有哭醒，会长味儿。
太子表哥，太子表哥，这个世上可没人能比得上太子表哥。
嘿，去他的仙乐太子，都给我烧了！
Yeah, I had a talk with someone in the comments about this little flashback scene as well. I think it's cool that it adds a little to the complexity of Chirong's character. But the way it makes me read this is very much like, yes, Chirong as a child probably was very much in awe of his cousin, thought very highly of him and gave him a lot of praise. And I think as a child that is, you know, genuine feelings to have when you have a cousin who's the crown prince and who is so loved and does so many good things, you know. But the way everything turned out, I don't know what Shellyan's parents felt about all this at the end of all things, but I cannot imagine that they would ever denounce him. If they ever did, I think I'll cry some more. We do know that Function and Mooching ended up leaving him, but we also know that they have a lot of regret about that. There is a lot of guilt left in this. Chirong isn't showing any of that. There's no remorse, there's no guilt. And he's only happy to see Shellyan because he can say his piece and shit on him some more. So yeah, while I do think that as a child, you know, he might really have adored Cillian, looked up to him a lot. Whatever happened after in his upbringing and in the fall of Chandler, that's not a sort of adoration and familial love that he held on to. So my interpretation of Qirong is that, yeah, the moment Cillian wasn't the crown prince that people loved, a symbol of status and power, a symbol of how the royal family of Chandler was good and powerful and on top. Like, yeah, I think Qirong lost a lot of things to the fall of Chandler. Yes, he lost his family as well. And yes, he lost his lifestyle. But his reaction to all of this, to me, his denouncement of his cousin when, you know, as far as we know, no one else that were close to him denounced him like that. Encouraged people to burn down his temple, burn him to ashes. I guess what I'm saying is that, yes, I do think that there is complexity to be had in Qirong, but I still think he's supposed to be a foil for Cillian. He's supposed to be the opposite of Cillian. Despite both being from a royal upbringing in Shanlan, despite having a lot of the same sort of situations around them, Cillian's path is one of kindness, gentleness, and wanting to do good by the common people, to save the common people. And I don't think that Qirong wants anything to do with the common people, except for having them do as he says, do his bidding, and later on, eat them. I want to save the common people versus I want to eat the common people. Thank you, Anna, for that comment. That made me laugh.
没死，你该不会以为这样就报了仇吧？至多灭了他一个分身罢了。若真想要彻底消灭Qirong，就得去找到他的骨灰。
I think Huachang would want Qirong to be annihilated, actually.
皇母后的时候，我再来找你做一个了结。国师。
Oof.
青丘，
他刚刚知道真相，让他自己冷静一下比较好。
真相是什么？很重要吗？
It is. It fucking is.
他得明白，哪些是你做的，哪些不是，
以及你为啥这么清楚有什么用？浪千秋父皇一心想要融合两族，我是不是杀了他？安乐王是仙乐皇族最后一支血脉，我是不是杀了他？说什么我也是活该，反正我也死不了，全算在我一个人头上不好吗？
I can't die anyway, so why not put all the blame on me? Oh fucking hell, Cillian! So we know that. I know that from earlier on. I don't remember if it's been told to us in the story, if someone told me in the comments quite early on, but Cillian can't die. That's one of his things. He's immortal in the sense that he can't die. If you kill him, he'll come back to life. He is basically taking this ability, I suppose you can call it, and he's like, well, this is a thing I can do, and I can't die anyway, so why don't I die for the sake of all of this? Why don't I take all the blame, because I'll just come back to life. I'll take the suffering, I'll take the pain, because I'll come back to life eventually. And again, this is so indicative of just someone justifying their own self-harm, their own self-abuse. And God, I hate that we have... Oh, to look at Huachang's face here, because he's listening, and he's, you know, he's having all his own thoughts, and this is not what he wanted. He did not want Cillian to break down and cry in front of him. But at the same time, it's, at this point, this is what is happening. So he's going to stand there, he's going to take it, he's going to listen, and you just see his face turn, like, more and more pensive, more and more hurt. Like, it's hurting him to see Cillian hurt. Gosh, this hurts. Oh, it hurts. It hurts so much.
Why does it hurt so much?
Look at him. It hurts, it hurts.
现在是安乐王也算上了，七荣也算上了，所有仙乐人都算上了。恨一个人。
His little breath too. Oh my lord.
难道就非要让他发现
This hurts me.
从前我教他的，真的全都是假的、空的、不值一提的鬼扯的废话吗？
啊，
对不起，死了，对不起，我怕是疯了。
Help.
对不起。
I'm sorry. 对不起。 Fucking hell. Okay, yeah, that was fun. Did not hurt at all. Okay, we're good. Yeah, I don't think we learned too much in this episode. A few like changes that we noticed, and it was good to kind of just get all the information again and, you know, pace through it a little bit, try to structure my thoughts around it. I've been talking to a lot of people in the comments already for the last episode, so I feel like we're getting to be on the same page. So I feel like I'm getting to express my thoughts and my perspectives and my readings of this episode. Though it's going to be very interesting to actually get into the novel, knowing that things are presented a little bit differently. It's difficult to listen to Shillian break down like that. It was really good in the Mandarin version as well, but I am being a little bit partial to Howard Wang's performance here. It was gosh, the desperation and just hearing his voice go that loud after just being so very softly spoken for most of this show. The ramblings of a sad child. Yeah, like Nonsense works as well, but the ramblings of a sad child, it hits so good. As in, it hits so bad, it hurts me. But it just refers to how Shillian, you know, thinks about his own decisions and beliefs and everything as very childish. And that reminding you once again that when Shillian ascended, he was basically a child. And then all of this shit happened. Holy fucking shit. I am not ready to start these flashbacks. I am not ready for that volume 2, 3, 4. I don't know. I know there are multiple flashbacks like interspersed between the now part of the story. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I don't think that I'll have a huge discussion before the next episode. I guess I'll just try and maybe talk a little bit about how much I love Shillian without crying about it again, hopefully, maybe. But other than that, you know, we just want a resolution to this. We want a resolution, and I've already mentioned a few of my predictions of things that I still think need to happen this season. And I think that now we're gonna have this emotional talk, and we're gonna either be able to end it or we're gonna get interrupted. We're gonna get interrupted, aren't we? Bullshit. Huangshen, I know you. I know you're on your way. They're gonna come interrupt us, aren't they? Fuck it out. Anyway, so waiting in anticipation for that to happen. This has been Amelia, aka Spaced Out Puffin, and I will see you in the next one.